G'day folks, my name is Mark Williams. I'm from Quigly AI. Today I'm going to present to you a starter's guide for Claude. Now Claude is the AI solution from a company called Anthropic, which is one of the fastest growing companies on the planet. Now, if you have used AI a little bit before, I think you'll still get a lot out of this. If you haven't, then great. Um, Now, when I say have or haven't used, I think that about 98 to 99% of people um, who have used AI don't really use it to its full capability. And what I'm going to do today is try and enable you or help you understand what that capability could look like. So, first of all, I think we need to ditch the smart search bar mindset. A lot of people essentially use AI as a glorified search solution. But how I use it is I delegate assignments, I ask it to draft things, I ask it to research things, I ask it to build things. So it's like working with a colleague, um, and the results vary. Sometimes it's a mediocre intern, other times it really is mind-blowing. And you can set yourself up for success when it comes to using the AI and ensuring that you more often get the mind-blowing rather than the mediocre results. And we'll talk through that. First of all, I wanted to talk about the different tiers pricing tiers that Claude offers, or at least the first three. So free, pro, and max. Free gives you a fair bit, but it is a bit slow, and it's certainly less capable. So I really wouldn't suggest that. If you're serious about using AI or trialing AI to see what it can do for your business, I'd be saying, look, just drop the $20 a month or whatever it is, and give it a go. And if after a month you're not really finding that it does what you want, well, firstly, I'd be saying try harder, but fine, ditch it if it's not for you. The Pro model's the next is the first paid model, and then up from that you've got Max, which is about $100 a month. And there's a couple of versions of Max, but the first Max version, and it's just got a lot more context. You can use it a lot more. And so you don't really need Max initially, or it's unlikely you will. So I wouldn't jump straight into Max. Give Pro a go and see if you can push the limits. If you do find that you're using all of your entitlement, so to speak, with Pro, either bump yourself up to Max, that's fantastic. You must be doing some really amazing things. Or you can just buy extra credits, and that can sort of enable you to expand your limits from Pro without jumping to the full max. So yeah, give that a go. Now there are different flavors of Claude. There's Claude Chat, which is kind of what typical LLM or AI chat environment looks like. Conversational type interface. But we can still push that a lot further. There's Co-work, which is a deeper product which enables execution of capabilities, processes. Skills, which are super cool. Basically, you build a skill, and it's really easy to build a skill. I'll show you how. For anything that's repeatable in your business. And so that's probably going to be the focus of some of what we talk about today. Skills in Claude really can be quite transformative for a business, and we'll go into that. And then you've got code. They don't look that different when you click through them, but you've got code, and that's used more for software or scripting, but you can really use it for anything. But like, it's quite amazing what you can do and what you can build, even if you don't have any sort of programming or development background. Because the thing with Claude is it's so capable that literally anything you don't know, you ask it, okay, but how do I do this? Step me through it, and it'll do it. And if you get stuck, you ask it, help me, and it'll work through the problem with you. So it's quite amazing. So just as an example of using Claude, now you can use it for research. You can use it for all sorts of things. So one example here is I need to deliver a presentation on AI use by marine biologists next week. Um, just interested in some topics that I could cover. Um, Before we proceed, can you ask me 5 questions before moving forward? Now we'll just hit launch on that. Before we do, you'll notice here we've got different models. Oops, different models. Opus 4.8 is the bee's knees. The more capable the model, basically the smarter the AI, but also effectively the more expensive it is. So the more credits, so to speak, it's actually tokens, you use. So it's a bit of a balancing act. There's a lot of balancing acts that occur in the use of AI. I'd selected Opus 4.8 for this. It'll be fine. Look, probably even Sonnet or Haiku would still produce just as good a an output. Actually, we'll use Sonnet. We'll see how we go. It's much cheaper than using Opus. So we'll hit that. Now you'll notice that I was dictating. I do that all the time. 1 month recently, I dictated 28,000 words. That's 28,000 words I didn't have to type. Hooray! And the product I use is called Whisperflow. It's super capable. All right, so my questions. Who's your audience? Marine biologists, okay. A bit of a silly question. What's the primary angle? AI, future opportunities and trends, I think would be good. How long is the presentation? All right, well, let's say 7 minutes. Let's get quite specific there. And do you have a professional connection? Well, let's say in this case, I'm an invited speaker. I should have dictated it. I wouldn't have had a typo. Speaker. There we go. Do you want concrete tech examples? It's conceptual, strategic. Okay. Cool. Done. Now, I could have provided that information off the bat. I could have gone into as much or as little detail as I wanted. And sometimes it's a bit of a fine line with AI. Sometimes you can provide it too much information, and then it kind of limits its output. So it's often quite a good process to not provide too much, see how it responds, and then sort of bring in the parameters a bit if you're not happy with what it's delivered. All right, so possible structure, 3 themes, for 7 minutes. Okay. Yeah, okay, not bad. What did I say? A presentation, topics. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay. Look, I think it's pretty good. Um, I'm not an expert in this field, but that seems okay to me. Now, what I want to do though is I want to show you, and look, I could actually ask it just while we're on that. I could ask it to do some deeper research. Now, it's cited some sources here. One thing you need to be careful with AI is sometimes it's a bit lazy, and it will go and find a source. We see this all the time on the internet, and assume that that is gospel. So I sometimes challenge it. I had a situation yesterday where I asked it to do some research on a topic. It came back and said, this is the fact," and it didn't quite sound right to me. And also, it was important that I knew exactly what was going on here. So I challenged it and asked it to dig deeper. And when it did, it turned out that the fact was correct, but it was a bit nuanced because it was correct in certain circumstances, but not others. And then I was able to go to the source and verify exactly what was going on. So much like the internet, you just need to be careful what AI dishes up for you. Now, yeah, so I think that's good. So I could ask for a deeper level of research there. And I might say, oh, use reputable sources of information. Now, reputable might be a bit subjective. I could state specific sources. I could, yeah, whatever. I might get a bit specific there if I wanted. Now we're going to create a new chat, and I'm going to build a skill. Now, as I touched on earlier, skills are really good if you do something consistent and you want a consistent output. Now, in a lot of cases, things that you use skills for, you could just drop into chat and it would get the output that you want at that point in time. But if you ask it again, it won't necessarily deliver the same output. Plus, it's a bit of fussing around because you've got to provide all the information again. So what I want to do here, I'm going to grab a couple of documents and drop them into Claude. Okay, so what we've got here is a fictitious company, I think it's fictitious, Bayside Accounting Client Engagements. So Bayside Accounting is the company, Bayside Accounting Group, and this is an information about the client engagement data that they've got that's been extracted from one of their internal systems, and then they've got the staff timesheets, and there's a crossover point of data. We want to bring that data together and create a client profitability report. So what I'm going to say to Claude, I'm going to bump up. Let's use Opus 4.6. I'm sure Sonnet could have done it actually. I have uploaded two reports from a company, and the Bayside staff timesheets Excel sheet has staff timesheet entries for April to May in 2025. It's got columns in it such as staff name, date, client code, client name, task, category, and hours. Then the other sheet is Bayside client engagements. And that's got the client engagement register showing agreed fees, budgeted hours, columns like client code, client name, primary contact, etc., budgeted hours and the period. I want you to produce a client profitability report by gathering together those two information sources. I'd like to understand, first of all, client profitability and a summary on that. I'd also like to understand staff utilization. So those are probably two separate reports actually. And in fact, maybe a third report could be, oh, actually, no, that's fine. Let's leave it at that. So that's two sheets that I want you to produce. And I want the formatting to be quite professional with a header row, alternating shading and number formatting. The currency is Australian dollars, and I want some conditional formatting in there. So like, let's highlight the status of red if it's over budget, or if it's under budget or on budget, let's leave it at green. Yeah, I think that's all you need to know. Right, boom, boom, boom. Love dictation. All right, let's upload it. So that's pretty cool. Well, I think the results could be pretty cool. This is the sort of skill that a lot of businesses need, honestly. So many businesses that I speak to just don't know what's going on in their businesses because they've got these disparate pieces of technology that don't talk to each other, and often promise a lot but don't deliver because the company uses the system in a slightly different way to the way that the developers of the system envisaged. Okay, so what's happening here is Claude is building this, and it's going through a process to build it. And we'll see what happens now. It's obviously been doing a bit of thinking. Now, if I'd bumped up my capability, my model capability, it might have done it a bit quicker. If I'd dropped down, it might have done a bit slower. So that's one of the things you get a feel for. Look, at the end of the day, if money were no object, you'd just run everything in Opus 4.8 or whatever the next one they release is. So yeah, that's the reality of it. Once that's finished, we can provide feedback and improve it. And again, treat Claude as your coworker. Hey, I mean, you can be as polite or impolite as you like. I'm generally quite polite. It's just, I don't know, it's a habit. Um, I sometimes say please to an AI. I'm sure I'm not alone. And so you can provide it feedback. It probably, a bunch of bullet points or whatever, just dictate it. And then it'll revise and improve. And it's about workshopping it. But once it's done, once you've created this, you can then ask it to build a skill. And so it will effectively reflect on what was done and then create a skill so that the next time you upload those two same sheets for a different period, it will present another report for you. Now you could build on that further in time. There's all sorts of stuff you could do. You could potentially use CoWork to run the report in a more automated fashion. Um, you could build something out like this in code. Not necessary, but you could do it. All right, so we've got client profitability. So um, so those are different clients. Client name. This is all dummy data, by the way. Don't worry, I'm not breaching anything. The agreed fee for the period, budgeted hours, actual hours. Okay. Ooh, lots of over budget. Nasty. All right. I'm I'm not happy about that report if I own this business, but at least I can now see what's going on. And that's a challenge, right? If you can't see it, you can't manage it. Um, so I now know, and there's a summary. Now, staff utilization. All right, I've got 5 staff in my business here. Um, for this period, total hours, blah blah blah. Now it's done its. We didn't ask it to do an assessment, but it did. Um, Status low, medium, and high. So um, billable utilization. Now I don't know what the targets of this business are. The average is 55, so certainly if you're below average, then probably need a bit of a chat. And really, you're probably looking at trying to boost those across the board anyway. So again, um, there's some information that you possibly didn't have before. And we could even, what's it done here? It's done it by client. Yeah, okay. So we could do some tricky stuff here, like we could say, I want to know if certain um, clients are less profitable based on certain staff. Um, and we might need more information for that. It depends. But anyway, so we're off to a start there. So that's the sort of thing, a really basic example. You can obviously get more complex, but the reality is if you've got the data somewhere, the analysis can be done. And there was quite a lot of data in this. Actually, might tell us here. Here's the workbook with both sheets. See, it often provides a commentary, which can be quite handy. And it highlights the worst offender, and then stuff. Liam is the busiest. Good on you, Liam. Emma and Priya, not so good. A bias note. Would it be useful to add a task category breakdown per client to see which services are driving the overruns? Well, I would think if I was managing Bayside Accounting Group, that is something I would find really handy. Anyway, I can do that. But what I'm going to do right now, I'll move me to here. What I'm going to do right now, let's stick with this for now. These reports are really good. I want to run them regularly, so I would like to build a Claude skill. Can you please do this now? There you go. There's the please. Um, and it'll kick that off. It'll build the skill. Uh, it'll it might ask some questions. Again, it'll probably provide some commentary. If it doesn't already, it'll tell you how to use it, or it can tell you. So I built a skill. I built a relatively basic skill, um, but it was to be used by an audience that the majority hadn't used Claude before. So I asked it to create quite a detailed how-to guide. I then asked it to create a page on my website to house all of this information so people could go and download the skill and then follow the instructions on the web page. All of that, now I've made that sound pretty simple, but all of that was done in about an hour and a half. So, and it really looks pretty good. So just push it, just see what you can do. There we go. Good call. This is a perfect candidate for a repeatable skill. AI is always positive. And look, sometimes that's bad because, and you can actually say, look, don't blow smoke. I want you to be honest in your assessment. But it's good to have a positive reaction when you're staring at a screen working with an AI. So anyway, it's going to do its thing, and as I said, it'll explain everything that needs to be done. Okay, so we're in projects. So just chat projects. I'm going to create a new project. I'm just going to call it business. What are you trying to achieve? That's really more relevant if you're working as a team. Well, you can put your own prompt in there if you want, but anyway, I'll leave it blank. All right, I want to add some information. Now, first thing up here, memory. So as as you start chatting within the project, that memory will build. And you can add some instructions here. But to start with, let's just add some context. So let's say as the founder of the business, again, I should just dictate. I'm just copying this from another file that I was using earlier. I need a little bit about me because that's important. So I'm going to add that. And then I want to add something about the business. So we're going to add content there, and we're going to call that brand voice. Brand voice. Oh, I was a bit quick. All right, so very, very simple there. Direct, practical, Australian, not hype. And then we're going to add another one here. And recent clients. And we're just going to paste that in. So there's a bit of information about Bayside Accounting Group there. So did an initial assessment. They implemented a bunch of stuff based on the AI plan that was presented, and that led to operational efficiency improving by 20%. Recommendations they adopted, creating a central knowledge base, an AI email assistant, upskilling the whole team in the use of Claude skills. Oh, it's not right. Claude skills. There we go. Add content. All right, cool. So that's just, it means that Claude will go to those sources of knowledge when it's executing my requests here. So look, they're really valuable, and you don't want them too long because Claude has to read them before it responds. And as fast and capable as it is, if it has to read too much, it look, it can slow it down a bit, but the bigger issue is it uses a whole heap of its context window and a whole heap of its tokens, um, effectively your credits, reading all that stuff. So you don't want it to be too verbose, but you need it to give it the information that you need to give it. So, aim for 1,000, max 1,500 words, not per item, not War and Peace. All right, so let's say I'm just going to do a little example here. I'm presenting at an AI conference. I need a 5-minute speech, informative, a touch funny but not silly. Include the Bayside Accounting Group story. Ask me 5 questions first. And all right, that'll do. Bang. So it is gonna leverage some of the other memory that I've got elsewhere in Claude, but it's going to leverage these project files in particular. So, okay. So the conference is a bunch of SME owners and managers. Number 2, the big takeaway, I would like them to realize that AI isn't something to be scared of, that you can really do some amazing things within your business with it. Number 3, yeah, I'll be on a stage and I will ultimately need some slides, but don't want too many slides and don't want it overly complicated. Number 4, about the height problem. Poke. Yeah, okay, yeah, gently poke fun at the AI circus. That sounds okay. As I said, the story I want is around Bayside Accounting Group. So let's see what it comes back with. Now, even in those questions, a little bit disappointed in the fact that maybe it was just clarifying. I said include the Bayside Accounting Group story. Anyway, let's judge it by its final output. So this is an example of how providing Claude with information enables it to help you more. The more it knows within reason, the better the quality of response you're going to get. And once it provides a response, I can workshop it. I like this, I don't like that. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's broken it down by slides. It's made the assumption that it's, oh no, I said 5 minutes. I work in AI and even I am tired about hearing about AI. Yeah, okay, cool. I like that style. Every week there's a new headline, Bayside Accounting Group, about a year ago, solid mid-sized firm, mapped their pain points, talked about their slides, 3 things that made the biggest difference, AI email assistant. So yeah, it's definitely tapped into that information that I gave it. 20% more efficient, 0 new hires for 20% more growth, 20% growth. Yep. Oh, okay. I like that spin. What's your 20%? Nice. So then it gives us a bit of a breakdown there. Cool. And then I could actually take all of that and say, build me some slides. I'd use Claude Design for that though. So, all right, there you go. A couple of different use cases there with Claude. Probably, unless I'm doing this sort of thing regularly, I wouldn't need to turn this into a skill. It's a one-off. It's saved within the project, so I can reference it in future if I need to. Yeah, job done. All right, now I just want to go into looking at a couple of things here. So if we go into settings, capabilities, memory. So here I can view and manage my memory. So this is where I would put probably some personal information that I want. I want Claude to know across every project and everything it does. So that's something that's important to complete as well. Um, and sometimes there's a bit of overlap there as well. Up here in privacy, um, so look, in your preferences, you can choose to allow Claude to help it use, you can choose to allow Claude to use your data to help improve its models. I've checked it to no. Um, at the end of the day, people take different positions on this, and the privacy of data is different, and I've published separately on this. The reality, I believe, get your own legal advice if it's important to you, but the reality is that the biggest threat to people that you don't want having your data or your client data, having access to it, is through a cybersecurity breach. And sadly, they happen all the time to every size company on the planet. Um, so do your due diligence, but don't get bogged down in the whole thing, is my suggestion. Now, there's a whole bunch of other stuff here. We've got our extensions, we've got connectors, we've got plugins, da da da. They all are handy later on, and in enabling you to connect Claude to your wider ecosystem, and that can be some really cool stuff. But don't get bogged down in it. Yeah, build your knowledge. Start with what we've talked about today. So what I would say is, if you haven't already, set up Claude, create a project or number of projects, build a skill to solve a real problem in your business, and let me know how you go, because I just think it's fantastic, and I think that so many businesses are missing out on an incredible opportunity here to get ahead and get ahead in the AI race. Because nothing you or I do is going to impact the final outcome of what happens with AI, except that it could impact where your business stands in 2 or 3 years' time if you've chosen to move ahead in the adoption of AI, as opposed to other companies that haven't, and they're not operating with that 20% additional operational efficiency, likely much higher. So on that note, thanks folks. Please give me feedback. Let me know what your thoughts. My first long run video that I've ever done like this. So yeah, keen, because I was staring slightly the wrong spot there. Keen for your feedback. Really appreciate it. Thanks.